All right. Well, thank you for joining us again at the Valuable and Vibrant podcast. We're so excited to have our lovely guest. This is somebody who I have been watching and just actually, this is great because I actually know her and I'll tell more about this story, but one of the reasons why I actually went natural it's because of Miss Tamara Floyd. She is so beautiful and sweet, sweet spirit. Always been awesome. So welcome. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much. Girl, we've kind of been in the same circles for so long.
A
I forgot
long
that
time.
I forgot it started with natural hair. So,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I think
yeah.
actually one of the very first meetups I went to, you were there, but I
Uh-huh.
remember before I went natural, I would see you around. I saw you at the church, and I was just like, "Oh, her hair is gorgeous. Should I do it? Should I do it?" And later on down the line, I actually did. But speaking of natural hair, man, you have really built this community and this
Yeah.
um, huge machine behind natural hair rules. Can you just talk to us
Yes.
about like? Man, just what mind frame were you in back then when you started? Like, what made you
Yes.
even feel the need to start it?
It's funny because I think I just wanted to help more people. I had people that were admiring me and my journey and coming to me, asking me questions. It was friends and friends of friends. And at the time, I didn't feel like I was an expert or anything, but I did feel like I had something to offer.
Yeah,
Um, and so what was happening is I just wanted to serve more people, and I knew that I needed to create a space to do that. And I was talking to a friend of mine who was actually going to school internationally, and I was asking her, well, how are we going to keep up with you? And she's like, I'm going to start a blog, and this is like the
wow.
early,
Yeah, yeah,
early
yeah,
days. So 2008, and it it's it was something about blog that just kind of like,
yeah.
you know, resonated with me. So I was like, girl, what is that? Like, what is that? And she, gave me this really simple explanation. Well, you go to Google and go to blogger.com,
Yes,
you know,
yes.
and you start writing, you can upload pictures and
Uh-huh.
so I did that. And the funny thing was I was just like looking for, like it was a lot easier back then, just some type of name that was not taken. And so I did different variations. Like I was looking for something like around natural me and stuff like that because, I was embracing my natural self and, coming back to who I was naturally. And those things weren't available. And I was just like natural hair rules. And I was like, yes, that's perfect. It's available. It's like
Wow.
it's like it has double meaning. Is because I was thinking, it could be like these guidelines for how to care for yourself natural, and also like it rules like natural hair rules. It
I
reigns
love that.
supreme. Yeah, and so I even back then I just remember being so excited that that was available.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still, because it's been 10 years plus.
Yeah.
So it's still something that still kind of hits me like natural hair rules, it just seems very, very powerful, even though like the site now is more of just my journey as a human.
Yeah. Yeah.
I still talk about hair care and my hair journey and stuff like that, but I also share a lot about my journey, because when I started the site, I was probably 23, so I was newly married, didn't have kids at the time, and now we skip, and I have two awesome, amazing little boys. I'm
Yes.
now a single mom. I really know who I am, as an
Man.
individual. So
Mm.
it's been an incredible journey. Natural hair rules still even today pays my bills. And so to have the opportunity to, you know, be given like I feel like God just kind of gave me like a seed, you know,
Yes.
and I
Yes.
wasn't very clear on what it could grow into. But one thing that I've learned about myself as a person, and I think this is funny. Okay, so brief tangent. I've been doing more hiking because we're in a
Okay.
whole, panoramic.
Yeah. Yeah.
so, so outside hiking and stuff like that. And so I went on what was supposed to be a quick hike
Uh-huh.
that turned into like a 6 mile, almost 3 hour hike.
Oh my gosh.
Because and and so when you're lost in the forest, you kind of like step back for a second, like, how did I get here? How did we get here?
That part. Uh,
So one of the things that I realized about me is that I like I'll just kind of get the idea or the vision and I'll just take off. And then halfway through, I'm like, okay, like trying to retrace my steps, like,
yeah, yeah,
okay,
yeah.
so now how do
Wow.
I get back?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, but that's really, I mean, that's something that's to be admired, really. When you have the courage to just like have something in your heart and in your spirit and just act on it, that's something definitely to be admired because, like you said, that Natural Hair Rules was kind of just a seed, and then look how it's really carried you and, like you said, sustained you. So I love that. I mean,
Yeah,
that's a characteristic that is much to be admired because many of us, I know me
yeah.
myself, like I feel something and I know I need to do it, but like, oh, I'm just gonna
Uh-huh.
freeze. A lot of times get paralyzed just by, the
Yeah.
unknown. So, but I think that's
Yeah.
awesome. And I think it's so funny because, like you said, back then it was like what Curly Nikki, Your Sight, and then one other. It was like,
Black girl, long hair.
yes, that one. And it was
Mhm.
just a few, and like you
Mhm.
really your resources were kind of limited, but like I remember
Mhm.
I stayed on those sites all day every day just trying to figure out. I'll be at work scrolling and looking and all of that, but definitely that's just great
Yeah.
because, and like you said, um going natural with your hair, but also learning and embracing your
Mhm.
natural self. I just
Mhm.
think I ran across some pictures the other day and I was like, oh, when I had a perm, baby, that hair was so flat and
Mm.
fried and
Mhm.
laid to my head. And I just
Mhm.
wondered, I remember feeling what made me actually go natural was I was, um, right after I had my daughter, who's 11 now. And I
I
just
know. Such a
remember
big
thinking,
girl.
oh my gosh, she just
Like
made it through it in 10 minutes. Like, oh my gosh. And she started her locks about 6 months ago. So
oh
she's like,
wow.
she's in her lock
Oh,
journey.
that's so amazing. Like,
And I
well,
kept asking her,
that's
I said, are you sure? Are you sure? She's like, yes, mom, this
right.
is what I want to do. She's like, I love my natural hair. And she's like, I just want to.
Mm,
And I mean, I
that's
think I
beautiful.
was more fearful than she was. But she's like, no, I'm ready. She had pictures in her phone and everything, just like showing me
Mm.
what she wanted. So I
Let
just,
me just affirm you because that is a tribute to you as a mother that you're
thank you.
raising a daughter that is so beautifully self-actualized and aware
Thank
to
you.
make a
Yeah.
decision like that. And also giving herself the freedom and the space because she is young. She's 11. And
Right.
so I think I do feel like she probably still has this sense of awareness that like this is not a marriage. This does not have to be a life,
Right.
time
Right.
commitment. Like this is where I am right now and I'm
Mm-hmm.
not afraid to make this choice and my mother is supporting me. And for I can't speak personally for you, but I know for me, I that was something that I had to cultivate within myself.
Oh man. Oh,
So
it's been
you're doing
such
a
a journey.
great job.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I mean, it's really been a journey. I have a lot of talks with my mom and them just about like how parenting has really changed because
Mhm.
um, even when I told them, they were like, "No, she's too little,
Right, right,
don't do
right,
that. And
right,
she gonna
right.
have to cut her hair off." And I'm like, "If she does." like what? It's just hair. And I mentioned the other
Yeah.
day to a friend, I was like, I think I'm gonna cut my hair and just do a bob or
Yeah.
something. And they were like, why would you cut it? And I'm like, why not? It's hair.
Yeah.
It's just
Well,
hair.
because you're gorgeous regardless. I was
Thank
gonna
you.
say that too. Like I like my earliest memories are of you were just admiring how beautiful you
Thank
were,
you,
and
Tamara.
you still and you still are like
Thank you.
gorgeous. You know.
Thank you. As are you. And I
Thank
think,
you.
that's something that I really appreciate about you because even I think we were crossing paths at that time, but you always were the sweetest and just had like a very warm and welcoming spirit. And I
Oh,
really
thank you.
appreciate that about you because not to bring light to the negative, but it's just even in these social media streets, it's a lot, a lot of different
Mhm.
personalities and a lot of different
Mhm.
dynamics happening, especially with women.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that's one of the reasons why, again, I really appreciate Natural Hair Rule because you've built this community and affirming women and just saying like, hey, embrace your natural self. But I
Mhm.
wanted to ask you like, so have you experienced the like evolution of parenting with your boys? Because I know there are so many things that I've experienced
Yeah.
with my daughter, and I'm just like, oh, this would never happen when I was
Yeah.
growing up, or this I would
Yeah.
never be having this conversation
Mhm.
with my
Mhm.
parents. Like, talk about what are some of the things that you notice, like the difference as we're just in
Yeah.
this crazy time of
Yeah.
parenting, and you have boys, so
Yeah.
like, what are your
Yeah.
thoughts?
Yeah. So, one of the first things that I was very clear on, is that I was just going to get to know my children as individuals.
Mm,
I thought that was very important, and I'm not exactly sure why, but I just always felt like that was very very important to get to know them as individual humans and beings. And so for me, that I didn't take what my parents did or what other people were talking about and stuff like that. I wanted to do what I felt like was right for my child and my
yeah,
children.
yeah.
And so my natural hair journey really helped me to be very clear on, or to do the research about natural alternatives to stuff, like, so I definitely did,
Absolutely.
pursue, like, natural labor and delivery.
Hmm.
And but unfortunately that didn't happen. But in I because I know we're going to talk about healing too, but learning how to heal from that,
Man,
like,
man, man.
just
Ooh.
being in a place of acceptance, like, there's there's nothing wrong with your body. You carried these beautiful boys to term. Like, no, you did not get to have the natural, vaginal birth that you wanted, but your babies are healthy. You're
Yep,
healthy,
yep.
and not feeling angry at God, like, God, I pray, like,
That part. That.
so but you know that just being very clear on, wanting to make sure that I was giving them the best, and not saying that all natural is the best, but I felt like that was what was right for my
Absolutely.
boys. So
Absolutely.
being very clear, like, even today, like, um, I I will cook 3 meals a day for them. We do breakfast, they do hot lunch, they do hot dinner. And I'm not going to say that I do this every day, but it's not unusual for me to do that for them.
Yeah.
Making sure that they have fruits and vegetables, and also just, um, yeah, just being very clear that they are little people. So what they have to say
Yes.
is important. Their
Yes.
emotions, they should feel free, especially as Black boys, to
Man.
feel, they should be safe to feel the full spectrum of their emotions.
Yeah.
And so I was very clear, I was never going to be a mother to say things like, man up. Never.
Come on.
Yeah, like, and also, especially with them being older, asking them, and letting them express to me what makes them happy, because I felt like that was something that the importance of being happy was not really valued, you know.
Oh,
I like I've made a lot of tough decisions because I felt like I was worthy of happiness.
come on. That is so
Yeah,
good.
so it's a lot of that, and just being very clear that, you know, I have Benjamin and I have Harrison, and Benjamin is not Harrison, and Harrison is not
There you go.
Benjamin.
There you go.
And it's so interesting and it's so beautiful, and I don't take it for granted, but as you're carrying these babies, like this is a different child, this is a
Yeah,
different
yeah,
pregnancy. And as soon as they come out and you hear your babies cry for the first time, like, oh, that's a different cry. Like
yes.
this baby smells different. This
Yep.
baby needs different things. And giving both of them the space to just be,
Yeah. Yeah.
I felt like I love my parents to death, but they were trying to raise all of us the exact same way.
Same.
And I fell in line with that, but my sister, like
Yeah. Yeah.
my sister, she did not. She was the
That's
rebellious one.
almost the same exact situation. My parents, and I've talked to them about this, but it's such an interesting dynamic, especially now. And I think the more the more knowledge and things that are available, like you can look into stuff and be like, oh, maybe I should adopt that, and maybe I should look at this. But
Mhm,
even my
mhm,
parents have kind of said to me sometimes, like, you let her talk too much and say too much, and it's like, but why? Like,
mhm,
why? Why? Because I asked my mom the other day, we were in the kitchen,
mhm,
I was at her
mhm,
house and I was laughing. I said, Mom, why weren't we allowed to say lie? Because I saw a post that was saying, like, why
mhm,
weren't we allowed to say the word
mhm,
lie? She was
mhm,
like, no, it's just bad. You shouldn't say that. And I was like, but why?
mhm,
And she
mhm,
just started laughing. But that's just an example of like these deep ingrained like
mhm,
principles and traditions that are
mhm,
prevalent. And I'm
mhm.
sure they're not just in Black families, but
Right.
I think Black families are very like married to tradition and the way that things have
Yes.
always been. And I'll be honest with you, like it takes some work on my end to embrace
Mhm,
like a new
mhm,
way and like
mhm,
let's just do what's most effective, not just
mhm,
what's always
mhm,
been done. So I really
mhm.
appreciate you saying like paying attention to your boys and what their individual needs are versus just like
Yes.
lumping everybody in the basket and like, hey,
Yes. Mhm,
let me just
mhm,
raise y'all. So I really
mhm.
appreciate that. I
Yes.
think um man, parenting has been something that has just truly stretched me,
Mhm.
especially now because I have an 11-year-old and I have a 10-month
Mhm.
old.
I
And
know.
so I'm like what I like to call like a little more seasoned mother. I'm like
Uh-huh.
I'll be 40 next year, but to have an
Wow,
infant at this
congratulations.
age, thank you. It's definitely a different dynamic and a different set of
Mhm.
like things that where on the first baby you just do the absolute most, and even
Mhm.
me being older, it's like I don't need that. I don't need this.
Yeah,
She
yeah,
doesn't need
yeah.
this. But it was really interesting being pregnant and giving birth during the pandemic, and then being
Yeah.
quarantined after. I mean, man,
Yeah.
the mental anguish that those types of things can
Yes.
put on you. Really, just had to pay attention to my
Absolutely.
mental health, and that's why I was
Yes.
taking such an interest in your journaling. Can you just tell us about like I love your post, and I
Oh,
really
thank you.
I was introduced to journaling maybe about 10 years ago. It was after Bailey was
Mhm.
born. And man,
Mhm.
when I tell you, just you already know the benefits, but can you just talk to
Mhm.
us and expand on like what got you
Mhm.
started with the journaling and how do you think
Yeah.
it's really like manifested?
Yeah. Thank you. I want to say once again, thank you for inviting me to your platform to
Oh
talk
no,
about this.
absolutely.
Like, just like all of these things, journaling is something. I use the hashtag journaling to heal.
Yes.
Almost daily, I do, like, even if I'm not posting, me writing like the date, or journaling on my social media stories and stuff like that, I'm still writing, and sometimes it's 2 to 3 times a day I'm
Really?
writing.
Okay.
And yeah, and it's something I was telling a friend, I feel like it's something that chose me.
Mm,
I've always been a writer. And I've gotten away from it. When I was younger, it would just kind of be a place where I would just kind of need to just like vent, like scribble my thoughts. I grew up
mm,
in one of those families where, you were taught that you needed to suppress certain
yeah.
emotions. And
Yeah.
so I am just I'm very comfortable with my emotions now.
Yeah.
I'm almost 40, so it's like this is just who I am. And so I have to give my emotions time and space to breathe and to acknowledge them and to
That's so good.
process through them. Um, I know, like, early on, when the news kind of broke about my divorce, it was like, I was, and even before then, I was kind of journaling on in a public forum on
Mm-hmm,
Facebook.
mm-hmm. No,
And
I feel you. I've
so
been there. I've been right where you are.
and so I'm learning how to have better boundaries for myself.
There you go.
And also understanding that just because the word friends is thrown around does not necessarily mean that it's a safe space.
That.
Um, and so I, you know, um, just kind of grew up in a household where I wasn't really freely to express my emotions. And then, you kind of replicate, stuff in your relationship. So I
Mm-hmm,
entered
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
into a marriage where it was basically the same thing. And so, I, again, I would find myself in different parts of my life going back to it. And um, I know around, I think, 2016, it was a lot of stuff going on. I was seeking early interventions for my oldest son, Benjamin, who was later diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder.
Mm-hmm.
We had made like this cross country move. I had an infant. Harrison was an infant. He was not yet one. And it's
Wow.
like my marriage was kind of like just dissipating like right before my eyes.
Mm,
And all I knew was I was so anxious all the time.
mm.
And the funny thing about it is, I come from a long line of codependent addicts, and codependent attachment, and also
Uh-huh.
alcoholism, and drug abuse. And I was very clear that I didn't want to fall into any of that. And
Yeah.
so I knew, like, because I was already working out, and
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that. And so it was like, I need a healthy
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. Yeah. Some kind of
It's like,
outlet.
yeah, I need a healthy something. And that brought me to therapy. And therapy started introducing me to different tools and resources. And she's like, well, why don't you write? And it's like, okay, I do
Yeah.
that occasionally. Let me do this. And so, and it was because it was also at a place where it's like I would find myself suppressing so much until I could get to therapy. And
Mm.
so I would literally walk into the door and start bawling.
Yeah.
And
You're gonna make me cry thinking about that. Yeah.
I'm gonna make myself cry.
Yeah, I have
You
been right
know?
there. I've been right there.
Yeah, I just want to say like I'm just so grateful that like I'm not there anymore.
Man,
I'm so thankful for this journey. I wouldn't want to go back.
right,
but
right.
but I'm so thankful for all the things that have come out of it. I'm so thankful that I can look at myself and see myself as beautiful, like
Yes,
I can see the progress, I can see the growth, I can, love myself as well as like my children so wholeheartedly because of the work that I've done,
oh child, you got me.
of of
I
of,
just
of like uh, I'm sorry, excuse me,
what
let
you
me
said.
grab these.
That really resonates with me because I actually I went for a walk this morning and I like to go to well, you do you remember Tom Bass Park with the big
Yes,
um
girl.
so that's where I go to walk because I
Oh,
just like
that's
being
awesome.
outside and with the with the
Yeah.
nature and the lake, and it just makes me feel calm. But when you mention being so full of anxiety, and I know so many people speak against it, but I had just gotten into this tailspin of like, we were quarantined and the baby, when she was really small, they're
Yeah.
sleeping for long stretches. And so you're just scrolling. And I'm just like, why am I not snapping back? And I really just was full of anxiety about my journey. Like,
Mhm. Mhm.
I can't go outside. I can't get a trainer. I can't do this, can't do that. And I just
Mhm.
felt so
Mhm.
like anxious about so many
Mhm.
things. I was feeling
Mhm.
anxiety about like people wanting to come see the baby, but
Mhm.
me saying like, no, you can't come,
Mhm.
and just so many things that I just carried these balls of I remember I'd be sitting on the couch
Mhm.
and just like, why are my fists balled up? Just sitting on
Right.
you
Like
know,
sitting like
yes, just
clenched.
clenched
Yes.
and just so tight
Yes.
and so anxious. But
Yeah.
like you said, I'm just so I was thinking about this morning. So, and I probably was borderline postpartum. I probably was because,
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
it's just so hard to, outside of the hormones that are just like going through and trying to settle down after you have a baby. I just was like, oh, this is
And
just
girl, this
impossible.
panini that we're in.
Baby,
Like I gotta find different words to kind of like just make it light because
yes,
this
yes.
pandemic has not been easy.
It's crazy. It's crazy. But when I was walking this morning, I just was thinking, like, man, God, I thank you for, the progress,
Mhm.
even though it was just a couple months ago. Like, I had so much anxiety. And I remember I would just cry. And I'm like, this morning, I said to myself, I said, you know what? She's 10 months old, and I'm not to the place that I want to be,
Mhm.
but I'm grateful that I'm okay. Like, I'm okay where I'm at.
Mm. Mm.
And just the
Mm.
realization to be able to say, like,
Mhm.
I'm okay and I'm still
Mhm.
beautiful and
Yes.
I'm still a great person and
Yes.
I'm still like have value even in the place that I'm in right now.
Yes.
That was just such a revelation for me, and it made me get teary because I remember being in a place where like you said, I was kind of at the end of my previous marriage, and it just was like, oh, I can't deal with this. Like I just felt so
Mhm.
low. I just felt so low.
Mhm.
And I think
Mhm.
just coming to the realization that, like, in spite of what everything I went through, I
Yeah.
still have value and I'm still like, I'm good. I'm okay.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I just was
Mhm.
reflecting on that this morning and just all the ups and
So
downs that
good.
I've been through.
So good.
Man, you just have to get to that level place. But, really
Mhm.
with the rise of social media and how
Mhm.
just everything is so in your face, like you have to
Mhm.
really be in a centered and a balanced place to not get sucked
Mhm.
in, because I'm like,
Mhm.
this girl just had a baby 3 days ago and she's like, her tummy is completely flat, or she's lost all her baby weight, and I just would be like, man,
Yeah.
and not in a jealous way, but like, man. But I've never been like that. I've never been a person who can quickly, do those things. So I'm at a place where I'm just extending a lot more grace to myself for
Mhm.
the season that I'm
Mhm.
in. And
Mhm.
Even though I'm like in a good level place right now, always open to healing and
Mhm.
being,
Mhm.
vulnerable in those spots that I need to
Mhm.
kind of tighten up a little bit. So I think
Mhm.
I'm gonna take a note from you and bring my journal back out. I have so
Girl,
many
please.
journals. I think was that you who made a post about
Uh,
like
People was mad at me.
girl,
I basically said, I don't know who needs to hear this,
yeah,
but write in the journals
yes.
that you have. Don't
Girl,
find
I
nobody.
hollered when I saw that because I was like, oh, she's talking to me. I have so many journals, and it's like I write in like 5 or 10 pages, and then I'm moving on to the next one. So when I pull a journal, I'm like, Lord, this is from 2008.
Girl,
But when I pulled out yesterday,
I
I had writings from 2011 in it. I was like, oh my gosh.
wow, good for you. I have so mine are distributed in different places, but I do have like some 2000 and like 10ish in
Wow.
here
Yeah.
journals. And so it wasn't, I think 2016 is when I started like finishing from
Mm,
cover to cover. So I appreciate being able to do that because I used to be so anxious. Like I don't know where the anxiety comes from. And so I'm just gonna speak for me. When it came to writing, there was a lot of fear. Of course, there's the fear of what if somebody reads this? And I actually, my ex-husband used to read my stuff, and he used to
really?
try to use that stuff against me. But because I
Lord.
had processed through it, it was just like,
Yeah. Yeah.
well, now I don't have to hide my feelings. He already know how I feel. So it kind of like lifted a weight off of me.
Yeah.
Um, but like, so it was that fear. It was the fear of I'm not doing this right, and it's like I've had to confront that in so many different areas because it's like who says there's a way to do it wrong? Like you're
That,
sitting there
yeah. Yeah.
writing your thoughts. And and there is a practice that goes into learning how to not judge yourself while you're writing and not
Mm,
self
mm.
edit. And so like I'm sure, like I was telling a friend, I'm like I'm sure like I could honestly be the Anne Frank of this panoramic, but like, I'm sure they're gonna be like, well, she was talking about how grateful she was, and now she's talking about something random here, like a blender or something like that. Like,
Oh,
and it's like, it's
girl.
okay. Like the
Absolutely.
paragraph, it is
Absolutely.
okay. It is okay. That's where I was at. And even like when I'm, sharing on my stories, like sometimes I'm misspelling days and stuff like that, but I'm like, it don't matter. It does
It
not
doesn't.
matter. Like you're doing it for you. Like,
Mhm.
and so that's is part of just fully embracing who you are. So, and just getting the work done. I think, going back to what you were saying, like as a mother, like, um, I come from a mom who like, you cook you cook. And so there was one week where we went out like 4 days that week, and I was judging myself, and I had to
Come on.
like why, where did that come from that you have to cook every day? Who
Right.
told you that? Nobody told me that.
Yeah.
Nobody told, like, even though my mom is a woman to cook, she never told me you need to cook every day, 3 meals a day. She never told me that. So it's like, where
Right.
is that coming
Right.
from? And so I was like, okay, God. And like I heard, like, I'm having like the way me and God talk is it's almost like there's two people in my head and we're just having a back and forth, just
I
having a
feel you.
dialogue. And so it's just like, your kids eat? Yes.
Yes.
Are they full? Kids, y'all full? Yes,
Yes.
mommy.
Right. We good.
Ain't no problems.
Yeah. Yeah.
We did it.
Absolutely. But I think, I mean, that's a great point that you made because, your mother may have never said that, but we embrace so many behaviors and things from our family of origin
Mhm.
that impact how we go forward. And, especially like in marriage and relationships, like all of these things, we just like a lot of times unconsciously have these expectations based on what we grew up around. And
Mhm. Mhm.
it
Yep.
was funny because I was telling my husband the other day, he was like, we were talking about something, and this was actually years ago, but we were recalling a situation that happened. But we could be like having a little discussion about the smallest, minute thing. And I would be
Mhm.
like, oh, are you mad at me? Are we going to break up? And he would be like, what's wrong with you?
Right.
But
Relationship
when I really did the
PTSD.
work, I
Yep.
never saw my parents argue. They always would go behind closed doors. And so I'm thinking, oh, here I
Mm.
am. We arguing, we going back and forth about something so small, and that's not normal. That's what I would tell myself. And
Right. Right.
I told my parents, I was like, look, I never saw y'all argue. I never heard y'all like raise your voices or even manage conflict, even for the
Within
kids,
your
instead of
marriage.
like,
Yeah.
you shouldn't have done that, blah, 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 go to your room. So it wasn't a lot of dialogue around managing
Mhm.
conflict. And
Mhm.
so as I grew up,
Mhm.
became an adult, and it was like, oh, any conflict is bad. That was like a trigger for me.
Mhm. Right.
And
Right.
so I had to kind of do the work like, wait, no, conflict is
Where did that come
normal. It's
from?
going to happen. You just got to learn
Mhm.
how to manage it effectively. So
Mhm.
there are so many things that we carry, from our family of origin that, if we're not aware of it, I mean, because that was
Mhm.
that was becoming a thing. He's like, "Why do you
Mhm.
keep saying like do you not want to be with me?" And I'm like, "No, I do." But like we're arguing, we're having this discussion. He's like,
Mhm.
"This is not a big deal." And
Mm.
I had to
I
really,
wanna. Yeah. I didn't mean to interrupt. I
no,
was just
no,
gonna
okay,
say I want to add to that. For me, it was like I even now I catch myself, and I thank God because I'm dating these very just beautiful, self-aware
yes,
men, and so we have these very healthy dialogues and conversations, and I
yeah,
find them very, very healing. And so I grew up in a household that could be self-critical and very critical, and I was in a marriage that was also like that. And
yeah,
so
yeah,
when he's affirming me, I'm waiting, like I'm
yeah,
bracing
yeah,
myself for the criticism, and I'm just like,
and it never comes.
so that's it, so you
That
just
is
like it.
so good.
And so I had to ask myself, because it was this bubble of anxiety that was building up in me, and I was just like, I don't know why I'm bracing for this, but I was able to process that out through my journal, and I was also able to have a very vulnerable conversation of, like, this is what I'm expecting, and no, you've never done this.
Yeah, yeah,
And and also feeling free to say that this came from my marriage, and this also
yeah.
came from my childhood, and because I think I still consider myself newly single, which is kind of weird because it's like it's almost 10
Hey,
years.
yeah,
But it's like um and that's a whole nother journey, but like just being safe to say that, like, I'm healing from this. And so
yes,
I'm I might be a little bit tender here. And for him to be able to have some of the same conversations with me about where he's
that's
healing from
good.
past
That's
relationships
good.
and stuff like that. So yeah, it's
So,
very
so,
interesting.
so talk a little bit more about that. I love that you're saying like you're able to verbalize and you know, a lot of times vulnerability is hard for you to, say, but like,
Yeah,
hey, I might be tender here. This is what this is from. Talk a little bit about your healing journey and just how it's been.
yeah,
I know my healing journey was rough, and I think probably for the same reason. I can imagine because you were kind of in a public space trying to work
mhm,
out your healing, and
mhm,
that
Mhm.
can be difficult when you just don't have
Mhm.
the, you know, when you got so many people looking and judging and
Mhm.
thinking, oh,
Mhm.
this has been this long, like, and she's still blah, blah,
Mhm.
blah. So, talk a little bit about your healing journey and, like, what are some
Mhm.
of the things that you think, or what some of the maybe aha moments or pivotal moments that you had
Mhm.
or have
Mhm.
while you're healing?
Um, there have been so many of them, because it's like it's not a destination.
Right, right.
Like,
Absolutely.
you
Absolutely.
never get there.
Right.
It's
Right.
like you wake up and you put, one foot on the ground and then one foot in front of the
Yeah.
other, and it continues. And one of the things that I've really learned in therapy was really, really a catalyst for teaching me how to feel safe within myself, with my thoughts and my feelings.
Mm-hmm.
It was almost like I needed permission to feel. And um I had these relationships that would um just I'm trying to think what's the best way to say it. They were very codependent relationships where I was expected to act and to be everything that they needed me to be versus what what I needed. And
Girl,
so
yes.
I I think one thing about me is I have been very clear on what I want and what I need. And so that's really helped me even with natural hair rules to build this successful brand and successful business because I've had this clarity of, like I would say like I had blind faith. I was that person and I don't recommend this. But in my 20s, I quit jobs with no backup plan. I was like, God is going to take care of me.
Come on. Come on.
And he did. Thank God he did, because he was like,
Right.
"This girl, like, I, I gotta take care of him because let me go." So, but I was always like, people would tell me certain things because, like, even when with natural hair rules, at one point in time, like my spouse at the time, I was like, hmm, I want to work less but make more. He was
Mm-hmm.
like, that's impossible. I was like, ha ha ha.
Right.
Watch me.
Exactly.
watch, watch me.
Right.
And so I built like this six-figure business, and so
Yes.
I'm clear on what I want and what I need, but I had these people around me telling me I couldn't have it. Like that I didn't need it, or
Wow.
they just could not. It took me a very long time to realize that some people, even though they can speak the language, um, you have to pay attention to people's actions.
Oh,
And
yes.
just because they can speak the language does not mean they can accommodate and they can do the work
Yeah.
that's required. Um, and so therapy helped me with that because I am somebody that I consider a very high functioning person. So even though I struggled with anxiety and depression, it was like this high functioning anxiety and depression.
Mm-hmm.
You weren't necessarily going to catch me, not being able to get out of bed, but I was doing CrossFit 3 times a week. I was, running this business while breastfeeding an infant and, being the breadwinner of my household and cooking meals for the children and cleaning and, you know, doing all of these
Wow.
stuff, all of these things, performing. I was really great at performing for other people.
Wow.
And it got to a place where I was going through so much, and I gave like a brief snippet of like my son and, and stuff like that. And therapy was this safe space of your feelings are valid. Like
Yes.
you feel the way you feel. There is no wrong way to feel.
Yeah.
And if I were you, I would feel the exact same way. I
Yep.
would feel the exact same way. And you know, so it was just this freedom in feeling that. I think that's where my journey started. And then it's like, okay, now we can incorporate some tools of being mindful. Like, what certain situations make you feel these things?
Yeah. Yeah.
What, what situations and people make you feel these things, you know, and taking stock and inventory of that. And also, like, processing, making room for my feelings. Because, like I said, like specifically, my son Benjamin was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. I went to his evaluation, and the doctor was like, "Yes, he has autism characteristics," and I'm just like, "My son."
Yeah. Yeah.
What does that mean,
Yeah.
and not really having the support and having a therapist that was telling me, like, look, you don't need to go to this evaluation by yourself. And I was just so used to
Yeah.
performing.
Getting stuff done. Yeah.
I was so used to performing, so it's like, this needs to get done. um I'm the person that's going to make sure that it gets done, so I really don't have a choice in the matter. But I tell you, it was maybe 2 weeks until I could get to her office. As soon as she shut that door,
The flood
just
that's open. Yeah.
yes. And so, therapy is expensive.
Yes, ma'am. This is true.
so,
This
so,
is true.
you know, um, there was journaling there, and this was my way of talking to God. It was my way of talking to myself. It was my way of affirming myself. And that's really how a lot of that came full circle. And it's like, I think the beginning of last year, I I always do like this, inventory of the year and stuff like that, and just getting very clear on, I deserve to feel good every day.
Yes. Yeah.
And self-care, especially being a single mama too, I preach this. Self-care is not manis and petties. It does you don't have to spend money on yourself. Like, you deserve to care for yourself every day.
Every day.
You deserve to, and you are worthy to feed yourself first, not just physically. And that's something that I also do. Like, I'll wake up before the kids and, make my breakfast, make my tea. But also, whether that's writing really quickly about what I want my day to look like, or, sketching out.
Mhm.
Um, like, I do all types of journaling. Again, there's no right or wrong way to do this,
Right.
but,
Right.
so there's, I use one journal because I felt like I have a lot of journals, but I felt like I needed to consolidate. And so
Yeah.
I had to give myself the freedom to let my one journal be a dream journal, a gratitude journal, an affirmation journal, a just
Mm.
catch all, a to do list, a bullet journal, and so sometimes it's just everything. And it's funny because I've had situations where I have an emergency journal in my car.
Wow. I know that's right. That's kind of how I use my notes on my phone. I have all kind of random stuff in there, but sometimes I just need
Uh-huh.
to get something off, or I'll put it in the notes. But
Uh-huh.
I love that
Yeah.
emergency journal.
Yes, girl. It came in handy last year. I was like, oh God, thank you so much for this emergency journal.
Right?
I was in a carpool lane. Well, not last year, but the year before, because We don't have a carpool lane for school right now, but was in that line just like scribbling out some stuff because I had feelings.
You're right. You're right. But I love what you said a little bit back. You said just being able to have someone say, it's okay that you feel that way. And I
Mhm.
think that's an important part of healing is just at some point being validated in what you feel.
Mm,
Sometimes you just
yes.
need somebody to say, hey, it's okay that you feel that way. And I understand. I might not agree, but I
Mhm.
understand. And so
Mhm.
I think that's very important. And one of the things my husband says to me sometimes, like I could be crying. He's like, it's okay that you feel like that. And that's just, I mean, that just, oh, it's like a weight lifted. Like you might not agree,
Yes.
not have been through what I went through to get me here, but it's okay that you feel that way. And I just, it's so needed in the healing journey.
Yes, it is. Yes, it
And
absolutely is.
I really appreciate just you sharing those gems. You dropped so many gems. I got to go get my journal out and just do some, read. I got to get my journal game together and start
Mhm.
back journaling because that's something that I really used to do faithfully. But I've got to get back
Mhm.
to that, especially just
Mhm.
with so much, and being in the house all day with the baby is sometimes it's like
Mhm.
lonely because it's just
Mhm.
she can't
Yes,
talk back
I
to me. It's like
understand.
I can talk all day
I
long.
understand.
Yeah, so
I
I
understand.
definitely got to get my journal and just get these thoughts out on
Mhm.
paper. But
Mhm.
definitely
Yeah.
appreciate you coming in. But more often than I mean more than anything, just the impact that you continue to be not only in your social media presence, but the blog, just starting it years ago. And, just want you to know, like, you never know how you are impacting someone. And just even some of the things that we've seen you go through publicly, handling it gracefully because we know people have lost their mind for less. So just want to give you a
Right.
huge like air hug and
Thank you.
so much love for what you're doing in the women's community and always as always in the natural hair community. And thank you so much for coming,
Thank
giving us
you.
some time out of your day to just share that wisdom. Do you have any final
Yeah.
thoughts you want to give us?
No, it's definitely been just a honor and a pleasure, and I encourage you to, don't let journaling be another thing that you're adding to your to-do list. And,
Mm,
let it be something that feeds you and serves you,
yeah,
because that's what it is. It
yeah,
is a loving gift that you give to yourself. So when you feel the need to do it, don't second guess it, don't overthink it. Just do it. It doesn't have to be, it can be a couple of words,
yeah.
um, as long as you do what your spirit is telling you to do. And I think when you get in a practice of telling yourself yes consistently, because that's what it
Mm,
is. That's what journaling is telling yourself yes
yes.
consistently. Then it can become a habit,
Yeah.
And again, for me, I realized that it was something that made me feel good, and it's like, why won't you do the things? Why don't you feel like you deserve to do the things that make you feel good every day?
Mm.
Like, there's something within us, especially Americans, where we feel like
Oh,
pleasure
that's a
is
tweet. I gotta write that down. What did you say? Say that again.
I don't know.
Why do you
You
feel like
deserve
you don't deserve? Girl, I'm finna tweet
pleasure
this.
every day.
Yes.
And that is something that I had to process through in my journal. Like,
Wow.
girl, you deserve, like, don't delay your pleasure.
Yeah.
But I think I'm not sure where it started, but especially in America, we feel like things are overindulgent,
Yeah.
um, and
Yeah.
it's not. It's not. We deserve to be loved every day. So, and that's a part of us loving ourselves and us feeding ourselves, especially as women. very important.
That is so good. So good. So good. And it definitely resonates. So I gonna I'm sure I'm gonna hear some more nuggets when I'm editing this and definitely have something great to share. But again, just really appreciate. I always love your spirit and just how much you
Thank
are shine.
you.
Your light is
Thank you.
always shining. So appreciate that so much. And I don't know if you can hear, but my baby's screaming. So at this time,
I do hear your baby.
well,
That's the thing
she's
about
like that's
kids.
the wake up, like the wake up siren. She just woke up.
Uh-huh. It's like, I'm here.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah,
funny thing about kids. They let you know, I'm here, taking
yeah.
up
I'm
space.
like
So,
I'm looking at her on the monitor, like you're fine, girl.
uh-huh.
But yes, thank you so much, Tamara. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
All right, you have a good day.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye.